Welcome back to WeeChats with brilliant people, everybody. It's so good to be back. In this WeeChat, we talk with Elin Manahan Thomas, classical singer and royal wedding singer by royal appointment for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, aka the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Elin has a huge amount of experience as a classically trained singer and is one of the most exceptional sopranos of her generation. Since releasing her debut album Eternal Light in 2007 with the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment, she's performed at many of the world's most prestigious venues and festivals and with leading orchestras and conductors, perhaps most famously known for her performances of Baroque masterpieces such as Handel's Eternal Source of Light Divine at the London 2012 Paralympics opening ceremony. Elin is equally at home performing classical and contemporary works. And in May 2018, she was honoured to perform at the royal wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, so she is officially the royal wedding singer. Alongside performances at concerts, Elin is also known for her presenting work on national radio in the UK. And Elin has released 5 solo albums so far and appeared as feature soloist on numerous discs for various labels. She has also won many awards and honours, so please check out her biography on the WeeChats page. In this WeeChat, Elin covers many topics around the psychology of performing, including being in the zone, the different colours of being in the zone, expressing emotions through music, her own performance anxiety challenges, performing without judgment. She talks about meditation and so much more. So enjoy this WeeChat with Elin Manahan Thomas and let us know what you think.
Welcome to WeeChats with brilliant people, hosted by Dr. Allison Rodius, Professor of Sports Psychology at John F. Kennedy University. In each episode, Allison talks to highly successful people in music, sport, and the boardroom. She digs into the mental training techniques that they use to ride out the waves that challenge them in work and in life. So enjoy these WeeChats with brilliant people.
Welcome back to WeeChats with brilliant people. Today I am super excited to be talking to Elin Manahan Thomas, who is a Welsh classical singer and the royal wedding singer. Welcome, Elin.
Hello, thanks very much. Yes, I think royal wedding singer might become my new hashtag, or the epitaph on my grave by the number of people who've seen it by now.
I definitely feel it. You know that I'm going to use that all the time whenever I refer to you. So sorry.
Totally. And I'm going to start referring to myself as soprano by royal appointment. Even to my own children, I'm going to be like mummy by royal appointment, so you have to obey me. Yeah.
I like it. So for the benefit of the people who have no idea what we're talking about, maybe they didn't see the royal wedding, maybe they were hiding under a rock. Is there something that you could tell the listeners a little bit about yourself as a way of introducing yourself?
Yeah, totally. So I am a classical singer. I'm a soprano. I've been in the business for 20 years. I'm 40 years old. I started out in Wales, and Wales in Britain is very much known as the land of song, and we did genuinely sing from an early age. I sang from when I was 5. But that wasn't really my career path at all. I wanted to do languages. I ended up studying the old Celtic languages at Cambridge University, but was in the choir there. And it was from the choir at Cambridge that I then went on to audition for other choirs when I had left, and went on to become a member of a choir called the 16, which is a very famous, absolutely fantastic vocal consort in Britain, the Monteverdi Choir with Sir John Eliot Gardiner. And then eventually I stepped out from choral work to be a soloist, and I've carried on doing that. And I also do presenting. I do radio and television presenting in exactly the same genre. My love, my passion is early music, Baroque music. And that's how I came to sing Handel, a Baroque composer, at the entrance of the bride when Meghan Markle, or the Duchess of Sussex, was walking down the aisle in Windsor Chapel a few weeks ago. So yeah, that's how I got, I think, to where I am.
Wow, it's amazing how things turn out, isn't it?
It really is. It's a very odd turn of events to think that I went from being 5 years old and I remember standing up, singing a folk song about a frog when I was 7. I was a bit older by then, but I think I came third. And going from that to standing, knowing that there were about 2 billion people watching worldwide, and also thinking above all, well, this is a very special moment for 2 people, the bride and groom, not to mention the impact, of course, on Britain, America, everywhere else. You know, to go from one thing to the other, and there are so many pegs along the way, aren't there? So many stepping stones that you can look back and say, well, I suppose that's what led to that, and that's what made me this. But it's still a pretty extraordinary moment when you catch yourself doing it. And I think the important thing is, to be honest, not to catch yourself at that particular time in that space. You just don't. You just do your job, and you can reflect on it afterwards.
So tell me more about that, because why would you not want to catch yourself?
I think it's just one of those, you can't trip yourself up. I'd imagine this is true in all performance, that you've just got to be in the zone. And in the zone is one of those sayings that people say to you, you know, I bet you're really in the zone. But it is so specific to performance. It's one of those things where you find yourself sort of shutting out all other things, to be honest, almost all senses. And you focus on this extra, almost sixth sense, which is your relationship with the music, and therefore your relationship with your body and the way you are channeling the music. I guess it's the same when you're playing tennis, you know, when you're lifting the racket, when you're going for the ball. But certainly when it comes to singing, it's all about the stillness of the moment, and it's about utter mental clarity where nothing else in the world matters, and you can find your technique and your armory, if you like, where that is what matters. And then being able to use the weaponry to fall back on it, you know, that technique you built in, the muscle memory, to create the sound you want and also to express the emotions you're trying to put across. I always think of myself, when it comes to music and singing, I think of myself very much as a vessel, as a channel. And it's my job to sort of come between the composer, whoever he be, whether dead or alive, and the current, now this minute, listener. And I'm that sort of vessel in the middle, the channel, the antenna that's receiving the music as I've read it, as I have understood it and interpreted it, and I'm then passing it on to the audience. And I always get really excited that I have a message to give. You know, everything I ever sing, there is a message. I'm not sure I could pinpoint it in words, but the message is a musical one. It's the shape, it's the ebb and flow of the music, it's the suspension of my breath, it's the colours, it's the shades. Whatever it is I'm feeling, drawing from the music, I want the listener, I want the audience to feel the same thing. So my dream is that people come away from hearing me sing and say, that was an extraordinary piece of music. You know, to be honest, I don't care whether they think that was an extraordinary voice or what a beautiful performance. What I want is to not get in anyone's way so that they come out and what they remember is the music. And I'm very much just the middleman.
Wow.
Sorry, I went off on one there, but it's something I feel so passionately about. So you just asked the right question.
That is, honestly, you said so much in the last few minutes that I have so many questions for you now. I want to delve into a lot of the, you know, it's almost like going off the branches of a tree. You said so many things that were really pertinent to me that I think is fantastic. You talked about being in the zone and how hard that is. You said something about other people say to you, like, you must be in the zone. What do you think you're trying to get at? I think,
do you know, I'm going to be totally honest. I have struggled quite a lot with performance anxiety over the years. And I struggled in a way with what that in itself was, because people would say to me all through the years, don't you get nervous? And I'd go, well, yeah, I get nervous, but, you know, it doesn't get in the way. We need a bit of adrenaline, don't we? You know, my husband, he's also a professional singer, so he would always say to me, you need to get fired up, you need to find that adrenaline. And I would be like, yeah, that's the way it is. And then life changed. I grew older. I had children. You know, my multitasking brain just hit kind of overload. Sometimes the music I was doing was new. Sometimes the music I was doing was old but didn't fit in my body in the same way. I can't really pinpoint it, but things got harder. And as things got harder, I found things mentally harder. You know, it wasn't so easy to just kind of pick up the same old Messiah aria and pop it out. it was much harder work. And I think that leads to you doubting yourself to a certain extent. And I was just struggling to put my finger on, what am I missing? What did I used to do? Or what could I do, to release myself from this kind of, it feels like such a cage on your brain, doesn't it? That sort of, I don't know, if you don't get performance anxiety, it does feel like there's a claw, quite a hot claw, sort of shutting down on your brain. And you know that in order to make music, you need to get back to that feeling of freedom. You just need to kind of bash it all away, not care what people think, not analyze your every breath, your every supporting muscle, your every vowel, your every note. You really need to get into the bigger picture. And it was a chat with a friend who said, and probably for the umpteenth time, because people are always saying you just need to get in the zone. And I stopped myself and I thought, okay, when have I been in the zone? And it's the first time I was able to clarify. There are some things I sing that are sort of naturally in the zone. I think everybody probably has, the one song, the one hit, I don't know, the one thing they do that they think, I can do that well. And I realized that it's a color for me. I can recognize a moment when it's a color and it is a moment of utter stillness. And it is that genuine moment where you feel like time has slowed down and you feel like everything is at your fingertips, and it's kind of like you're watching it from above, where you're going, oh yeah, this is what I'm good at, and I'm take all the time in the world, and time is tripping along perfectly quickly and normally, but you suddenly manage to slow it down. And I've put that down to technique. It's down to technique, and it's down to mental preparation, and it's down to physical peak. So first of all, you have to be utterly prepared. You have to be in a place where you know that you can sing this passage in your sleep. You can sing this well. Not just on a good day, just any day. You can sing this passage because you have practiced it so hard and you have put it in the right place physically in terms of, the resonance, where it comes out, how you're supporting it. Then it has to be mental clarity. You have to have put yourself in a zone, if you like. You have to have given your head enough space. Whether that, people have different amounts of space they need, don't they? Some people, they will shut off all social media for days. They will shut off television. Other people are still, frankly, doing the crossword at the side of the stage and, downing their coffee before they walk on. People have different ways of getting to what they call mental space. But that's the key for me. And that is built upon physical peak, which, I'd love to say I'm a trained athlete and it's all about my tip-top body. Of course it's not. But it's totally about having a really good night's sleep before any gig, before anything I do. And it's about having eaten the right things so that you're not kind of standing there going, oh, my stomach's a bit grumbly, or, oh, I need a wee. It's putting yourself in a zone where you feel like you can do stuff to the best of your ability. And when you know that, you really do know that, then you can shut everything off and access what I call the armory of technique. And you can find it mentally. You can kind of scan down your body. Yeah, if I breathe like this, I can pinpoint that note up there. If I ground myself down here, I'll be able to get those notes cleanly. And it's just it's kind of like having a checklist, or I always think of it as a dashboard when you're in the zone. It's like you're sitting at the dashboard of a rocket and all those buttons are completely in your control. And you can just pull a lever, push a button, and the sounds go as you want them to go. So that's the zone for me. That is the zone.
Right. It's I like that you said it was a color, because
yes.
To me, it's actually, the zone is one of those things that is kind of, it's like hard to pinpoint. And so people who are in the zone, what am I trying to say? So people who are in the zone don't actually get there very often.
No, but also I think it's possible to not recognize when you are in the zone. And I think there are different ways of being there in a way, that you can do things, even, there might be small tasks that you don't think of that you do really well, and actually that you do without thinking about it. For me, another one is doing a crossword, which sounds really silly, but I can do a crossword quite well. And so I can sit down and I'll just lose myself. My other senses kind of go out the window. If somebody wants me, my hearing is slightly switched off. My eyes are very much glued on the crossword, but my brain is functioning at its absolute, top whirring mode It's doing its thing. And I think it's in the zone, it's about allowing yourself to be your best self, isn't it? That's what the zone is. It's allowing it. It's not, there's no push in it. You cannot push yourself into the zone. I don't think that's possible. I think it's all about allowing and trusting. It's a very instinctive thing. That's not to say you can't get better at being in the zone, but I think that when you're practicing and preparing, that's not the zone. That's the legwork. And you do the legwork so that when you're in the time and space where you need it, you do find that extra dimension, and it sort of hits you like a very strong ray of light from above, where you just go, right, I'm in. It's kind of like strapping yourself into a rocket, I guess. You strap in and you go, yeah, I'm here, and this is when it happens. And it's exhilarating, and it's exhausting, and it's what when you come out the other side, you realize you've worked damn hard, because you've given yourself that space to be your best, but of course that uses up a lot of your own resources as well.
Right. And I think it's that elusive quality that people, it's like they're striving for something that is really hard to achieve. So why try to strive for something? It's almost like perfection. Perfectionism is one of those things that is just really hard to live with, because nobody's perfect, and striving for it, honestly, it causes you more anxiety. So taking the edge off that, and I actually really like the idea of you talking about color, because color is something that I use as a technique to help people who are perfectionists. So when they think about colors, I ask them to get into their color rather than focus on being perfect. And that seems to work for some people, and I imagine it might even work for you, is to embrace that color ahead of time rather than waiting for the zone to happen. You can move towards it, and you can embrace that color. You can even wear a little bit of that color, or whatever it is. It's just like you can become that color, and you're not forcing it, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But it's part of your strategy, and so I actually use that technique myself.
And also I think shades of colour, because my colour is purple, and I think the way I find it, or the way I kind of envisage it, is I remember moments when I have been purple. I imagine moments, and they are basically all singing, but they're presenting as well for me, actually. It struck me in the midst of one of my kind of most anxious times. I was doing some presenting, and I found myself in the zone, and I thought, how weird. I thought this would be kind of specific to singing. But then I thought, well, actually, I'm a presenter as well. That is another half of my job. And I have to believe in myself as a presenter. It just never occurred to me not to, weirdly. I find talking quite easy. But when I was doing this particular job and found myself completely in that zone again and looking from above, and I had all these things I wanted to say, and they just came out in the right order with the right sort of, adjectives. It all sounded good. And I walked away from that thinking, purple, that's purple. And when I sing Vivaldi Coloratura, which is a really kind of hard, fast, fireworksy music, that's colour purple. So then I thought about recreating that in other places. I mean, I'm not going to recreate it at 7 a.m. and my kids bounce on the bed and wake me up. That ain't going to happen. I'm not going to recreate it when I'm going for a run and breathing for my life. But there are times when I go to practice and I say to myself, okay, when I've done the legwork, I've done the warming up, and I've done the text work, and I've maybe done a certain amount of colouring and shading, but then I'll say to myself, right, you've got to perform this. You've got to get used to standing and giving it your all, because that has a certain suggestion of pegging out, of pushing and overdoing. And giving it your all does sound a bit exhausting. It's that moment where you say, but I can't give it my all. I just need to do my best in this circumstance. Right. And even if it's doing my best, sort of in my front room with my piano where I practice, that's okay, because you can still be in the zone in my front room, because it is still doing my best. But it's doing my best without judgment. And I think you cannot be in the zone while you've got any sort of self-critical or any sort of judging mind or ear or eye. You have to be in a totally neutral state of mind in order to get into that zone, wherever you are, whatever you're doing.
Yeah. What do you think has made the difference then between, how have you learned this? Because I don't think you probably were having these conversations with yourself, 5, 10, 20 ago? What's changed?
I think a lot of it, I mean, as singers, I think a lot of it comes quite naturally when you're younger. Your voice, it's a lighter instrument, especially for the type of singing I was doing. It's a lighter instrument. It fits into things more easily. You sort of sing without thinking, and you have a natural technique. You then, of course, have to really build on that technique. You've got to solidify it because you are not going to get anywhere without grounding everything and really working on the breath. So you do that, but then, of course, life gets in the way, and you do some concerts that you feel, that just wasn't as good as it could have been. And then you start looking back and also, in 20 years, you do a lot of concerts. And a lot of my concerts have got harder, just in terms of the repertoire, maybe the size of orchestra or the places I'm singing. Also, being totally blunt, you have 2 children, and so your body goes through hell and back. Mentally and emotionally, you're drained. And really, a big part of your brain is working elsewhere a lot of the time because, I'm a mum. So I think pulling it all together to get back into that sort of concert and top edge mode is quite hard work. And then something like the royal wedding, obviously, you have to be absolutely tip-top. And that puts on a huge amount of pressure because you're thinking, you're going from, as I said, breakfast in bed on Saturday mornings with 2 crazy children watching the Ninjago movie, and then, the following Saturday, getting up, catching a coach from Buckingham Palace and singing to the royal family. So the dichotomy is huge, and life feels a lot more polarized. I think then you have to find yourself pulling it all back in. You've got to kind of create a rainbow of yourself and a bubble where you find what's really important. And in order to get into the zone in particular, you have to find a joy in it. And you're only going to find that joy if you have the conversation, if you do stop and look at yourself and look at the singing and say to yourself, if I'm going to be doing this job, it has to be for the love of it. Singing is not the place to go for money. So you've got to be in it because you enjoy it. And if you're going to enjoy it, you've got to knock out the anxiety and you've got to knock out the endless self-criticism and the I wonder if, I wonder why. There's a brilliant vlog. I don't know if you know the immense singer Joyce DiDonato.
Oh, no.
And she is just phenomenal. She does these video blogs, and they're about everything, but she did a brilliant one on the inner voice and how we all have it. And I've spoken to various really high-level singers who all say, the inner voice, it can be crippling because, of course, if the inner voice comes at the wrong time, in the middle of an aria or in the upbeat as you take your first breath before you sing, if that inner voice nags you then of all times, it can completely undo you. So it's all about pacing yourself and letting that inner voice have its moment. Yeah, sure, yes, I do need to work on that. Okay, I do, and that stamina there, and yes, the Italian, and yes, making sure I can sing that aria fast. It's fine. That self-critical voice, it's there for a reason, but it has a time and a place. And the key for me has been meditation, because that's the only way I can really get myself, and I need to do that, sometimes I need to do it 2-3 times a day to get that inner voice away from me, to really be able to focus myself on the creativity, on the creative process, to give myself to the singing, to give myself a chance. Because if I don't have that, literally, headspace, and that's the app I use, but they're not kidding, it's about creating space in your head. And it's not about replacing the negative thoughts with positive ones. And it's not about sort of, chastising yourself that you're even having these negative thoughts. Don't be ridiculous. I'm on stage now, so it must be fine. It's not that. It's finding a way to get those thoughts to the right place at the right time and allowing the space for the moment when you really need that utter clarity and stillness and focus.
I think you're absolutely right, and actually Headspace is something that you had mentioned in your interview on Radio 5 Live, and that's what perked my ears up. And I tweeted the Headspace people, and I just thought that was fascinating that somebody was also actively using that kind of an app, which we talk about a ton here at JFK with our students, and teaching them how to teach meditation and how to use it for themselves. So I'm so excited to hear that, a musician is also doing that kind of meditation and finding it useful. So has it helped with your performance anxiety then?
100%, totally, yes. It has made the world of difference. There's another app called Companion app, and that's been built by a very clever computer guy and an amazing therapist called Dr. Robin Hart, Hart, And he specialises really in performance anxiety, and they've come up with this other brilliant app, and that's about rebreathing, which is sort of recalibrating your brain physically through the oxygen you're taking in and putting out. And rebreathing is a big thing for performers with performance anxiety. So various techniques really, and I do think, yes, I've gone through performance anxiety, but it also occurs to me that this is useful for everybody. We all perform in various ways, whether it's sitting in the office at your computer, whether it's in a meeting where you've got to suddenly pep up, whether you're a teacher and a child asks you a question or the head expects great things, whether you're a doctor, and you've got to give the right answer in that moment. We can all suffer from performance anxiety, whether you're a mum, and you can't decide whether you've made the right decision for your child. It happens in so many ways, some small, some large, and it can be pretty crippling. And so giving yourself the chance, I think of Headspace kind of like building bricks, really. They're not just for when times are bad. They are absolutely for ensuring that times stay good. Meditation is meditation is a big word that I think lots of people associate with monks and Buddhists and Tibet and sitting with a gong. And actually what I've learned because I read so many meditation books and just didn't do it. I did that thing of going, that sounds brilliant, really must do that one day. Didn't get round to it. And then finally hit a stage where I thought, I think this would be really, really beneficial. And when I did, I was genuinely surprised at the difference it made. I've described it to my husband a few times. It's a bit like someone has poured this lovely cup of warm tea into my brain. And my whole brain is kind of just relaxed, like in a hot bath. And it's a feeling you can't describe, I think, until you do it. And it's not like I'm good at meditation. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think you can be good at meditation, because there's no such thing, is there? That's not the point of it.
Right.
But I just find it very beneficial. The 10 seconds I can manage sometimes of utter mental clarity, they really lend themselves to those moments when, understandably, the adrenaline rushes, your heart does beat faster, and you have to fall back on muscle memory and mental acuity. And I think that's where the Headspace comes into its own, alongside the rebreathing technique, and then definitely the preparation, so that you feel confident in yourself.
Yeah, all those things, because then once you get to that point, the technical aspects almost switch off, because you've practiced, and then that's where the mental comes in. So that's why it's really important for performers to know, well, how do I do the mental piece? Because at the end of the day, you can be technically brilliant, but if you can't make it sing, if you don't have the colors, if you can't capture the stillness, if you can't capture the rainbow that you're talking about, then
completely.
Just any old singing performance, as opposed to something way more beautiful and emotional that you're really tapping into.
And I think that is it. It's about the creative process, which is in itself really hard to describe. I find it particularly hard because, of course, as a performer, I'm always performing someone else's music. So my dad always said to me, isn't it great that you're in the creative industry? And I thought, am I though? Really? I feel like I'm in the recreative industry. Oh, that sounds wrong. But I'm recreating somebody else's work. And then I took time to realize that actually putting your own interpretation on something and recreating a piece of music off the page through your own body and delivering it to somebody else, that is creative. But it is basically taking you back to a very early sense of childhood play. It's letting yourself literally make music, and it's playing with the music, with your own abilities, your own skills, yes, fine, but it is that mental clarity, because, singing teachers have told me over the years, singing is 90% psychology and 10% technique, and I really do believe that. That 10% technique has to be so solid that it is like a mountain, but the 90% mentality, when that comes in, it can shake almost anything, unfortunately. So it is being able to believe in yourself. And that sounds a bit namby-pamby 21st century, but what's the point in doing anything if you don't believe you can do it well, quite simply? You've got to believe that you are here for a reason, that they've booked the right person for the job. You can't be standing there going, maybe they tried 7 other sopranos before me. You really can't be thinking that in your first phrase. You have to be thinking of nothing but the integrity of the music. There is no space for all those doubts at that point. There's no space for those doubts anyway, to be perfectly honest, because they're not going to serve you, are they? You've got to get to the crux of, well, I am doing this, and I'm really glad I'm doing this, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And that, for instance, getting to the royal wedding again. And I sang the aria Eternal Source also in the Paralympics opening ceremony in 2012. And that was even more exposed, because for that I'd had a Vivienne Westwood dress made by Vivienne Westwood, and there was a huge design team. So I was a concept. I wasn't just a song, you know. I had to look and sound the part for this particular moment in this extraordinary ceremony with Ian McKellen centre stage and the Paralympians literally flying in on wires. And of course then it all went quiet and the chord went down and I had to sing. And it's that moment. It's incredible the thoughts that can go through your head in we call it the upbeat, in the in-breath. You know, I mean, it's how short is an in-breath? That's it. Yeah,
wow.
You know, that's it. And yet in that in-breath, you can be going through, I shouldn't be doing this. Oh my God, they've chosen the wrong person. They're going to realise, the minute I start singing, they're going to know, they're going to really regret this. My parents are going to be so embarrassed. Oh my God, my family's going to fall apart. You know, it's incredible what can go through your mind in that in-breath. And it's all about training yourself and training your brain as well as your body to take that in-breath with nothing but bring it on. You know, you just have to have the loveliest open throat, open heart, open mind feeling of, I am embarking on something I love and I believe that you will love it in response. And
right.
that, you know, you've got to get to that and you've got to love it. Like I said, the sense of play, the sense of it being at your fingertips, you have to get back to that every single time.
Yeah, I mean, you're just you know, in a way that you're transcending music when you're talking to me about this, because the athletes that I work with are, and musicians that I work with as well, but you're going beyond your specialty when you're talking about this. This is performance as a whole.
It is, and I'm fascinated by it. I mean, I've read books on performance psychology. I've read books on, you know, anxiety as a kind of separate thing. I've read, you know, The Inner Game of Music, which is a big one about reaching your potential and, you know, reaching your best. And it just occurs to me, it is, as I said, performance is something we all do all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. You know, sometimes you can be talking to someone, and if you're really acute, if you're really on it, you can realise that you are performing to that person. You know, flirting to a certain extent, that is performing. Why are some people better flirters than others? Because it's a game, because they're playing it, because they are in the zone. They think it's something they do well. You know, when a chef comes to the kitchen and picks up the knife and looks around and sees this array of skills and, you know, like I said, in my purple TARDIS, the buttons and levers, where I can do this. And it reminds me a bit of, what was it? Not Matrix. Yeah, maybe it is the Matrix. But you know that one where they can see, they see things with like a robotic eye and they're plucking it out of the Minority Report. That's the one.
Oh, yeah.
Plucking it out. Yeah, Tom Cruise is plucking things out of the air. And like, obviously they're not actually there. It's just a pretend thing. But he's plucking, and that's how I feel performance is at its very best, is you're looking at this kind of invisible dashboard that nobody else can see, and you are working flipping hard at it. You know, you're enjoying, you're playing, you're creative, but it's because you've got these things at your disposal and you're going, I'm going to put it into this gear here, I'm going to ease back a bit here, like being a pilot in a plane, I'm going to do this. But it's because you are above it and you have found your colour and you've got your breath in the right place, and the breath must be a major part for any performance. It's, you know, anybody performing in any shape or form, it's all about the steadied, centred, grounded breath. Because there is no such thing as, you know, performance when you're running high on adrenaline and shallow breathing. That, you know, we all do it. We breathe deep, you find your core, and that's how you put forth. Sorry, I'm going on and on here, as you said. I'm sure I'm going way out of the zone I should be in, but it just, I find it so interesting. I see it in my kids as well, you know, when they're playing, like, they take on a different stance when they're really comfortable, when they know that they're doing something they're good at, like whether it's building Lego or doing a jigsaw or just explaining something to you, they kind of take on this mini swagger, not bad swagger, but this kind of pose of, I know I'm there. And their breathing drops. It drops to their tummy. You see them being really grounded, and they speak to you with this clarity because they've got something to tell you. And I think, God, you know, they don't know they're doing it, but they're performing. They've found a passion. They've found a message they want to give me, and they're going to get it out to me. And from then up, you know, where does it come in that we psychologically start to clamp down on ourselves and stop believing quite so strongly, or start the doubting, which starts to, you know, which is what eventually erodes your performance? When do we do that, and why? I don't know. I'm fascinated by it. But to me, the key is still that centering breath and clarity.
Brilliant. Honestly, Elin, I could talk to you for hours and hours. But I think that we have to wrap it up just for now. In terms of part 1, maybe we'll come and do part 2 later, because I feel like you have so much to be able to offer other performers as well, because, you know, everything that you're talking about, like I said, it goes beyond the singing piece, it goes beyond classical music, it goes beyond music. It's all about performance, and how do we help people be able to harness the best of their ability on any given day is how I talk about it. And so you may not be feeling great on any particular day, but you still have to perform. And, you know, if you got up on the royal wedding day and you weren't feeling 100%, there's no way you're calling Meghan and saying, you know, sorry, I'm at 95%, so I'm going to have to leave it. You're going to do it.
Yeah, you're going to do it. And do you know what? That's why the self-belief comes in, because we are rarely, you know, I know I said at the start it's all about the mental preparation, the sleep, the peak performance. We are rarely on our best day, let's face it. We've never had quite enough sleep. We're always running slightly on empty. We maybe didn't eat at the right time. We couldn't get someone to park the car, whatever. We're never actually at 100%. And sometimes those rare times you are at 100%, it's worse, because then you go, oh man, I should be amazing today. Because I had 12 hours sleep and I had a fantastic lasagna and, you know, my dress fits and I know this piece backwards, and that's almost more pressure. I think it's very much about, as you say, it's getting the best out of yourself. But getting is too strong a word. It is allowing the best of yourself to the best of your enjoyment and ability at any given time. That, for me, is performance.
Yeah. There you go, in a nutshell. I'm going to ask you one final question that I've been asking of everybody. So if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you try to do tomorrow?
If I knew I couldn't fail, do you mean in my job or just in anything at all?
Anything you like.
I would fly. I would fly high, because I am always secretly afraid of falling. And so I would fly high.
I love it. Well, I hope you continue to fly high. You're already flying super high. And I know everybody is appreciative of everything that you're doing, and keep doing it. Thank you so much for being part of WeeChats with Brilliant People.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just, it's been an eye-opener for me as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Tune in next time, everybody, to see who is on WeeChats with Brilliant People. Thanks a lot, Elin.
Thank you so much. Take care.
We hope you enjoyed these WeeChats. You can follow WeeChats with Brilliant People on Twitter at WeeChats and Facebook, and subscribe to the podcast series on iTunes or any Droid platform. WeeChats with Brilliant People.